We did what we felt like we needed to do. Then we sat down and went back to sleep. I think I took 4 naps yesterday. It was glorious. Today I'm wore out. Because I got in the habit of not taking a Sabbath rest. You want to know why you're having high blood pressure and why maybe your body's blowing out? It's because God knows that every 6 days you need a 7th day to rest. And if you don't do it, you're going to pay for it. Well, let's move on. Honor your father and mother. It's the first commandment with a blessing. Honor your father and mother so that you may live long in the land of the Lord your God is giving you. Doris has got it made. She's been honoring her parents and they're 90 years old. Doris is going to live to be 100. So you better shape up, Barry. It says if you honor mom and dad, you'll live long. That's what it says. You shall not murder. I know somebody, they go, thou shalt not kill. No, it means you're not to murder. You're not to Cain and Abel thing. You're not to Cain your brother Abel. You're not to take somebody else's life out of a fit of anger. And while everybody's talking about guns, the last deputy sheriff that got grievously hurt in Vermilion County, Danville, Illinois, a gun wasn't involved, a knife was. And Cain killed Abel with a rock. It's not what you put in your hand that we need to be legislating. We need to learn to do something about what's inside here. Nothing's ever going to change until you change this. So for all those people shouting about this, that, or the other, by the way, saw another thing yesterday. More teens have been killed not by guns or knives, but by texting and driving. So guess what we're going to do? If you do what everybody else has been talking about doing, you're going to lose your little hand devices, and you're not going to have a car either because you killed somebody. See the idiocy of the whole thing? It's not the things. It's the people. It's kind of like we learned in this church. It's not the Band-Aids. It's the inner healing that needs to be done. Don't commit adultery. In other words, don't have sex with someone you're not married to. And Jesus said in the Sermon on the Mount, He said, don't even think about it, because if you think about it, you did it. You know, some of us like to think we've been pure, but maybe God shows us how many times we've committed adultery. It would be bad. You shall not steal. If it's not yours, don't take it. You shall not give false testimony against your neighbor. You're not supposed to go to court and lie. You shouldn't be lying anyway. You shall not covet your neighbor's house. In other words, you want your neighbor's house so bad that you'll call him out, shoot him, and take his house. Or take his wife. Or take his boat. Or take whatever you want. That's coveting. Wanting what somebody else has because you're too lazy to work for it yourself. Oh, did I say that? When Moses went and told the people all of God's word and laws, they responded with one voice, everything the Lord says we will do. And so Moses wrote down everything the Lord said. God said it, we'll do it. Yeah, right. You know how long that lasted? Until he went back up on the mountain, was there about 40 days, and they thought something happened to him, he wasn't coming back, so they decided to take matters into their own hands. At least I'll give them this. They went 40 days. They hadn't gone that long some of the other times. They couldn't even make it from 3 days from one miracle to the next. And while we're sitting there talking about them, we're just like them. We too are saying, what have you done for me lately? Instead of looking back and seeing what God has done. Moses took the blood and sprinkled it on the people. This is the blood of the covenant the Lord has made with you in accordance with all of these words. The blood of the covenant. The first covenant was sealed in blood, and that second covenant, when Jesus said, "This is my blood of the new covenant, which is poured out for many," both covenants were sealed by blood. Because that's what God said He wanted. Then God told Moses to build him a sanctuary. It was God's idea that there be a temporary place to meet. It was God's idea to build the temple. So we need to be very well aware that it's not the tent, but that tent was ornate. It's not the temple. And that temple was ornate by God's design. So, I know sometimes we get overwrought with buildings. And sometimes we get more attached to the building than we get attached to God. And sometimes we think it's all about the building. And forget it's all about us coming in here to be encouraged to go out there so there be more in the building. We've just got it all upside down and backwards. But God said, "Receive an offering for me from everyone whose heart prompts them to give." Now I know some of you said, there they go, passing those offering plates again. That's all they ever do at church is ask for money. No, it's not. In fact, we're rather negligent around here because we don't ask when we should. Because some of us have been so accused of, oh, it's all about numbers and money. Well, let me tell you something. If you have no one show up and you have no money, you have nothing in the end. So numbers and money at some point do count. As much as we like to say it doesn't. And generally the people that say that don't want to participate. And the people who point fingers about numbers don't want their church to grow. They just want it to stay like they want it to stay. So there's something behind those accusations, and it's not godly. We need to be clear about that. Because God does say give. God did say build a sanctuary. And later, He's going to say, David, you're not going to build the temple, your son is. And God made it clear how it's supposed to be. So to say that God doesn't care about those things isn't exactly true. And we need to be honest about that. He's up on the mountain. So the people saw that Moses was so long in coming down from the mountain, they gathered around Aaron and said, "Come, make us gods who will go before us. This fellow Moses who brought us up out of Egypt, we don't know what's happened to him." This fellow Moses is not the one that brought them up out of Egypt. Who brought them up out of Egypt with a strong arm? God Himself. It wasn't Moses. And to show you Aaron's failings, he listened to the people. He took all their gold earrings and he fashioned a calf. Because the bull calf was one of the preeminent gods of Egypt, and they knew about that one. So they wanted a bull to worship. He took what they handed him and made it into an idol, cast in the shape of a calf, fashioning it with a tool. And then they said, "These are your gods, Israel, who brought you up out of Egypt." And then God says, I've seen these people. They're stiff-necked. You ever known people who couldn't tell them anything? They were just... That's what it means. You can show them the truth and they won't listen because they've already decided they're not going to listen. They're going to do it their way and they're going to oppose anybody who says otherwise. Oh, I'm not just talking about the Israelites. You ever been that way? I know you're sitting there thinking about people. There's names that's come to mind. Don't sit there and tell me no that you didn't think about somebody. Yes, you did. Because I saw some of you nod your head, and you weren't nodding about yourself. We can be just as stiff-necked as anybody else. Everybody in this room has the capacity to be that way. You ain't going to tell me nothing. It's my life. I'm going to live it the way I want to. Who do you think you are to tell me what to do? You have your truth. I have my truth. Sound familiar? That's what we're living in the middle of. It's as old as Israel at Mount Sinai. Now here's what Aaron tells Moses. When Moses said, "Brother, what have you done?" And so he says, "They thought you were gone, you weren't coming back. And they came to me, and so I told them, give me your gold jewelry, take it off, and they gave me the gold. I threw it out in the fire, and out popped a calf." Is that what happened? Liar, liar, pants on fire. When you get caught, you still don't tell the truth. He said he fashioned it. He said, I threw the gold in the fire and out popped a calf. At that point, Moses says to the whole people, "Whoever is for the Lord, come to me." And all the Levites chose Moses. At that point, God told each man to strap a sword to his side, go back and forth through the camp from one end to the other. He was killing his own brothers, friends, and neighbors. The Levites did what God commanded them through Moses, and on that day they slew 3,000 people. You remember another time when 3,000 people came to the Lord? It's just a shadow of things to come. 3,000 died that day at the hand of their own brothers by the instruction of the Lord. And God's not done. God says to Moses, "Whoever has sinned against me, I'll blot out of my book. Go lead the people to the place I spoke of. My angel will go before you. However, when the time comes for me to punish, I will punish them for their sin." He struck the people with a plague because of what they did with the calf Aaron had made. And then God says, we're leaving this place. You're going to go to the land that I told you. All of these heathen peoples are there, and you're going to shut them out. They're squatters. They don't belong there. Remember, it was Jacob and Jacob's land when they went down to Egypt. When they didn't come back from Egypt, other people moved in and took it, stole it. For those people who think that Israel has no right to the land, God gave Israel the right to the land when He told Abraham, every place you walk is yours, and as far as you see is yours. And even though you ended up in Egypt for 400 and some years, did not mean that that land went to somebody else. So if you want to be legalistic about it, the Palestinians are squatters. And that's not being hateful, that's being truthful. God has not changed the deed. We need to be aware of that. Oh, and by the way, God said, I'm not going to go with you this time. So the pillar of fire and the pillar of cloud is gone. You know why God said He wasn't going to go with them? You're such a stiff-necked people, I'll probably end up killing all of you if I go. That's God talking. That's how bad it's gotten. I better stay back away from you, because if I go with you, I'll probably kill you. Sad. But then God says to Moses, when Moses is pleased, if your presence doesn't go with us, how will we know that you're pleased with me and your people unless you go with us? What else will distinguish me and your people from all the other people on the face of the earth? God, it's you that makes us different. If you don't go, we don't have anything. The Lord said to Moses, I'll do the very thing you've asked, because I'm pleased with you and I know you by name. Is your relationship with God close enough that He knows you by name? That's the way it's supposed to be. Then Moses said, show me your glory. That's one reason why I asked for the last hymn this morning. The sadness of not singing hymns anymore is that the hymns, many times, were Bible stories set to music. So we sang our Bible stories. Now we don't sing our Bible stories anymore. He hideth my soul in the cleft of the rock. He covers me there with His hand. Moses says to God, I want to see you. Do you ever say to God, I want to see you? God said, I will pass by you, but I'm going to cover you with my hand. I'm going to put you up there in that little indentation, that cleft in the rock, and I'm going to cover you with my hand. And you're only going to see my backside, because nobody can look at my face and live. And so Moses saw God pass by. Moses was there when God told him to make the second set of tablets. He broke the first set in anger. God didn't tell him to break those, but He did. And so He makes a second set of 10 commandments. God tells him what to say, and Moses chisels them out. The first time, God chiseled them out. God wrote the first set. But anyway, when Moses came down from the mountain, they had to throw a blanket over him because he was so bright they couldn't be in his presence. And even for a while they got to where they threw a veil over him anytime he went into the presence of God, because when he come back he was shining again. He didn't know it. But so that they could look at him, they covered him up. But he could still speak through the veil. Folks, God says, do not worship any other God. For the Lord, whose name is jealous, is a jealous God. I just want to ask you, would you dare upset the Creator God? But yet we have a lot of people doing that, unwittingly, but they're doing it. Anytime you refuse to listen, anytime you decide to do your own thing, anytime you don't want to do what the book says, and follow something else, or rewrite it, you're following another God. And God doesn't take kindly to that. Many people want God to bless them, but they don't do anything to be blessed for. God bless America? Ooh. When God could give America what she deserves, the fact that He's waiting is a sign of grace. We're not a Christian nation. We may have been founded on Christian principles, but I'm not sure we were ever a Christian nation. If you go back and read the history, there's been times when we're closer than others, but we never did arrive. We are not the new Israel. God's chosen nation is still Israel. He hasn't changed that. And the church does not supplant Israel as the new Israel. We are adopted in and have a right by adoption, not by birth. When they got the tent of the meeting finished, the glory of the Lord filled the tabernacle. Moses could not enter the tent of the meeting because the cloud had settled on it, and the glory of the Lord filled the tabernacle. In all the travels of the Israelites, whenever the cloud lifted from above the tabernacle, they knew to set out. But if the cloud did not lift, they knew to stay put until the day it lifted. So the cloud of the Lord was over the tabernacle by night, day, and the fire was in the cloud by night, in the sight of all of Israelites during all their travels. And I guarantee you everybody else saw it too. Is your relationship with God so close that He knows you by name? That's a high something to live up to. To be a friend of God. To be a close acquaintance with God. To be on speaking terms with God. And for God to say, I'm pleased with you. Because that's what God wants to say. God isn't trying to just punish everybody because they did wrong. God's will is that He be pleased with us. And we've got to want that. Do you? Let's stand and sing.